I stared at my brother in horror as they placed the wedding ring on his finger. Our parents' smiles haunted me, hiding the dark secret that bound us together. Once upon a time, in a small village in Nigeria, there was a girl named Anna. She lived with her parents and younger brother, Mike. Life was simple and quiet until one day, everything changed. Our parents gathered us in the living room. The air was thick with tension. "Anna, Mike," my father began, "you must marry each other." I thought it was a cruel joke, but the seriousness in his eyes said otherwise. "But why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "There are things you don't understand," my mother said, avoiding our eyes. From that day, our lives spiraled into darkness. Mike and I tried to escape, but our parents watched us like hawks. They locked us in the house, cutting us off from the outside world. The villagers were unaware of our plight, as our parents spun lies about us being ill. Nights were the worst. I could hear my mother whispering in her room, talking about old traditions and debts to be paid. My father mentioned a curse that would ruin our family if we didn't go through with the marriage. One evening, I found an old diary in the attic. It belonged to my grandmother. The pages were filled with stories of our ancestors and the horrors they faced. One entry stood out. "Our family is cursed. To break it, siblings must marry and bear a child. This child will carry the burden and protect the family from ruin." I couldn't believe it. We were being sacrificed to protect a family secret. The days passed in a blur, each one bringing us closer to the dreaded wedding day. Mike and I grew closer, not as lovers, but as survivors of a shared nightmare. The night before the wedding, I overheard my parents talking. "We have no choice," my father said. "The shaman said it must be done, or we all perish." The next day, we stood before the village elder. My heart pounded as I glanced at Mike. His eyes mirrored my fear and confusion. The ceremony began, and with each word, I felt a part of me die. As they placed the ring on Mike's finger, a chill ran down my spine. I glanced at our parents, their smiles hiding the terror of the secret they kept. This was just the beginning of our nightmare. As the ceremony ended, we were led to a small room in our house. The door locked behind us, and the reality of our situation sank in. Mike sat on the bed, his face pale and eyes wide with fear. "Anna, what are we going to do?" he whispered, his voice breaking. I had no answers. The only thing I knew was that we couldn't let this curse control our lives. That night, as the village celebrated our twisted union, I made a decision. We had to find a way out, no matter what it took. The next morning, I managed to sneak out of the house and visit the oldest woman in the village, Grandma Betty. She had always been kind to me, and I hoped she knew something that could help. When I arrived at her small, cluttered hut, she looked up from her knitting with knowing eyes. "Child, I've been expecting you," she said. "The curse on your family is ancient and powerful, but there might be a way to break it." Hope flickered in my heart. "Tell me, please," I begged. Grandma Betty leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "You must find the shaman who cast the curse. He lives deep in the forest, far from here. Only he can reverse it." "How do I find him?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and determination. She handed me a small, worn map. "Follow this, but be warned, the journey is perilous. Many have tried and failed." I thanked her and hurried back home, clutching the map tightly. Mike was waiting for me, his face lighting up with a glimmer of hope when I told him about Grandma Betty and the shaman. "We have to leave tonight," I said. "It's our only chance." Under the cover of darkness, we packed a few essentials and slipped out of the house. The village was silent, the only sound our footsteps on the dirt path. We followed the map, entering the dense, eerie forest. The trees seemed to close in around us, and strange noises filled the air. As we ventured deeper, the path grew more treacherous. Thorns scratched at our skin, and the ground became uneven and slippery. We pressed on, driven by the hope of breaking free from our nightmare. Days turned into weeks, and our supplies dwindled. Just when we thought we couldn't go any further, we stumbled upon a small clearing. In the center stood a hut, smoke curling from its chimney. "This must be it," Mike said, his voice barely a whisper. We approached the hut cautiously. The door creaked open, and an old man with piercing eyes and a long, grey beard stood before us. "I've been waiting for you," the shaman said, his voice echoing with ancient power. "You seek to break the curse." We nodded, too exhausted and desperate to speak. The shaman led us inside and began preparing a ritual. "To break the curse," he said, "you must confront the darkness within your family. Only then can you be free." As he spoke, shadows began to swirl around us, taking the form of our ancestors. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and their voices filled the room with an eerie chant. "You must face them," the shaman urged. "Only by confronting the past can you change your future." Mike and I stood side by side, our hands clasped tightly. The shadows closed in, their whispers growing louder and more menacing. We had to be strong. This was our only chance to break free. And so, we stepped forward, ready to face the darkness that had haunted our family for generations. As we stepped forward, the shadows encircled us, their whispers becoming deafening. The faces of our ancestors twisted in anger and sorrow, each one a reminder of the curse that had plagued our family. "Why must we suffer?" I shouted, my voice trembling. Why was this curse placed upon us? One of the shadows, an old woman with hollow eyes, stepped forward. "Our family wronged the shaman," she said, her voice echoing through the room. "We betrayed his trust, and in his anger, he cursed us to suffer until we paid the price." "What was the betrayal?" Mike asked, his grip on my hand tightening. The old woman pointed to a shadowy figure in the corner, a man with a stern face and piercing eyes. "He was the one who betrayed the shaman. He stole his secrets and used them for his gain." The figure stepped forward, and I recognized him from the old diary in the attic. "He was our great-great-grandfather. I did what I had to do to protect our family," he said, his voice filled with regret. "But I never imagined the cost would be so high." The shadows closed in tighter, their whispers now a cacophony of pain and anger. "You must make amends," the shaman's voice boomed, cutting through the noise. "Only then can the curse be lifted." "But how?" I cried, feeling the weight of the curse pressing down on us. The shaman handed us a small, ancient knife. "You must offer a sacrifice," he said. "A part of yourselves to atone for the sins of your ancestors." Mike and I exchanged a fearful glance, but we knew there was no other way. We took the knife and made a small cut on our palms, letting the blood drip into a bowl the shaman had prepared. As our blood mixed, the shadows around us began to fade, their whispers turning into sighs of relief. The shaman began to chant, his voice growing louder and more powerful. The room filled with a blinding light, and we felt a weight lifting from our shoulders. The shadows dissolved, and the air around us cleared. "It is done," the shaman said, his voice now gentle. "The curse is broken. You are free." Mike and I looked at each other, tears of relief streaming down our faces. We had faced the darkness and come out stronger. We thanked the shaman and made our way back through the forest, the weight of the curse finally lifted. When we returned to the village, our parents were waiting for us, their faces filled with guilt and relief. "We are sorry," my mother said, tears in her eyes. "We didn't know how else to save our family." "We understand," I said, hugging her tightly. "But it's over now. We can start anew." And so, we did. The village welcomed us back with open arms, and life slowly returned to normal. Mike and I remained close, our bond stronger than ever. The curse that had haunted our family for generations was finally broken, and we were free to live our lives without fear. Sometimes, to break free from the burdens of the past, we must confront the darkness within and make sacrifices to forge our own path to redemption and freedom. Through courage, perseverance, and a willingness to face the truth, we can overcome even the most daunting of challenges and find peace. Thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this story, give it a thumbs up, comment and share. Thank you and God bless you.